illustrate the meaning of the report response in articulating the following questions. First, what is Kuhn's notion of productiveness? Second, what role do productiveness play in shaping scientific progress? And how can this concept be extended to the cities in total art sciences? And the last one is how can Kuhn's concept of productiveness address conceptual transformation in the individual cities and perspective? This side is done with the next statement. Kuhn's concept of productiveness will develop for science, also applies to social and personal transformations, challenging the assumption that change is domains in rather than revolutionary. Other ways of research uses the qualitative philosophic model. The study primary analysis puts groups essentially the subtle scientific revolutions and examines related philosophical literature. The method includes close reading, primary interpretation of philosophical formulas, consideration of secondary sources for the group analysis. Now we proceed to the topic. What Kuhn's chosen productiveness? It is governed, the study explains Kuhn's theory of scientific change. Thomas Kuhn's concept of productivity is the central understanding of how scientific knowledge develops. According to the productivity refers to the entire generation of beliefs, values, and techniques, and so thereby the members of the given community. The productivity is not simply the theory, but the framework that guides scientific research and economics. In this study, the main focus is on scientific productivities, rather than the particular historical examples. All of those debates, this theory has generated focus for scientists. For the first, product and its characteristics. To consequently use the concept of product to explain how scientific knowledge develops. The product includes their beliefs, methods, and setups, and guided work of the scientific community. It is relevant the sample of scientific revolutions to describe the product as a total beliefs, values, and techniques, and thereby the members of the given community. Kuhn emphasizes that products evolve not only ideas, but also community of scientists who share a common view of the world and follow similar methods of investigation. For the dynamics of scientific change, Kuhn's distinction between normal science and scientific revolution is one of the most best contribution to the 20th century philosophy of science. In the subtle of scientific revolution, Kuhn described normal science research that is based on the past scientific achievements that the scientific community accepts as a foundation on its scope. In this stage, scientific development through several stages with modern, local sciences, great crisis, evolution, and neuroscience. These stages provide a general framework for understanding how the science stages develop over. For the critics, Kuhn's theory of scientific revolution has understood ways of philosophy of science and relatives, but it has also related many things. Many debates, some scholars argue that Kuhn's theory of productivity places too much emphasis on discontinuity of science and does not give either important to rational evaluation or critical criticism. Others suggest that scientific development today may involve more continuity than original design. For the chapter summary, this chapter is right. Kuhn's major contributions for the philosophy of sciences, especially his ideas about balance, local science, and scientific revolutions. Kuhn's background as both physicist and historian of science if we pursue the perspective of how scientific knowledge delivers. At the center of this theory is the concept of outcome, which is described as the several books of theory, methods, and setups. Now, to see the chapter 3, one of the scientific progress. This chapter examines how products have influenced the development of science. This is right. Scientific progress not just the accumulation of knowledge, but also a series of leaps on one product to another. Part of this levels understanding evolutionary nature and scientific progress. This is how the science often develops through introduction and transformation. And for the historical product, the history of science is not simply story itself, but continuous growth. Instead, it includes important moments to teach that we shift the foundation of knowledge. And historical examples show how military keeps thinking and transformation scientific sector. This is important areas in perspective and what Kuhn described as paradigms. Important paradigms in the friendly first century, science has experienced many transformations that are as significant as today's scientific revolution. One of the most important examples is the of classical mechanics and quantum physics. The real revolution was not only the development of new design tools, but also the different way of understanding process and mathematics. The universe was no longer viewed as a simple number, but by seeing medical law, and instead modern physics law and the observer for the broader application, Kuhn's idea about change has important implications for understanding knowledge and scientific data. Rather than seeing science as a stable and immediate process, Kuhn emphasized major advances over the field through revolutionary changes in which one paradigm replaces another. This field challenges the cultural idea that science is only objective and universal. If equal paradigms are incommensurable, they may not easily compare the same setups. At the same time, philosophers such as Popper or Lacan's appeal that could make overemphasize evolutionary change that are necessary or critical to make immediate sense of past of scientific development. For example, the submarine discovered suddenly paradoxes as a result of writing to force in scientific progress. Being on chapter 2, which displays the concept of paradigm and global science. This chapter is more about scientific change and due to revolutionary transformation. But the science operates in certain deliveries and methods. Kuhn argued that the accumulation of knowledge and practice can eventually create a specific paradigm and open the way for a new one. For example, paradigm is also organizational transformation. In previous chapters, I explored the process that drive spirit cycles. Essentially, the dynamic process which center and enters critical and formations. This chapter just attempts to examine three essential life dimensions: social, cultural, and personal life. To shed light on how products work and how they function, and eventually in safety the life of the bodies. But there's also medical transformation. Balances in society and thus will usually happen suddenly. and travel quickly. Instead, they develop slowly over time. These stages spread gradually to people sharing ideas or ways of thinking or writing habits and common values in our language. When social factors change, personal values often change as well and adapt to the new situation. At the same time, various values change influence society, encourage it to move in new directions. For the personal products, this just when society influence people alive from outside. Then at the individual level, product is a critical transformation. It involves a change of the person's feelings, perspectives, and way of thinking, and way of living. As your scientific revolution transform the foundations of knowledge, personal products reshape how people's understanding can integrate their experiences and find meaning in life. At the personal level, this is usually appear as indicators in the way of personal understanding the world and our spirit. First, transformations often involve both intellectual and emotional change, leading a new level of awareness and self-understanding. Further interconnections, other partnerships can appear at the personal level. They are very complete isolated from social and cultural influences. It is like within communities where ideas, values, and traditions constantly interact with their personal experiences, education, religion, and society institutions. Like when many individuals adapt new perspectives, these stages can gradually influence society and its aspect. This way, balances can be understood as a dynamic interaction between personal reflection and broader social transformation. For the limits of applying both resource science, while classrooms carry over offers the strongest critical metaphor of the interpretive process. There are a number of significant limitations when trying to use and lead you is led more directly with social and cultural values and context. Kuhn's paradoxes has been used method is often different from organized and analytic patterns from scientific evolution. For example, summary, this calculation is that the was paradoxes from the world of science to the social, cultural, and individual aspects of human existence. For this, it's funny. It is clear that social orders from future to democracy and in the silent society, in the digital network, have experienced product level that make the process of the beauty. For example, find conclusion, chapter one, the introduction, chapter two, examine full sided paradigms, chapter three is part, seven paradigms, scientific revolutions, and they have been part from scientific advancement. Chapter four is scientific theory to go over social, cultural, and individual change. And chapter five, conclusion. So the philosophy of science. Total schools concept paradigms are sequence before the elements. First, it rejects the possibilities view of knowledge as linear sequence or objective facts. Second, Kuhn's theory emphasizes the social nature of knowledge. Thirdly, Kuhn's splashes most questions the nature of the profession and human. And lastly, Kuhn's philosophy encourages us to be progress more human and flexible for the recommendations and further research. Based on the findings of this study, general directions for clinical research can be received. First, basic study to explore how Kuhn's model paradigms apply to new and developing tools such as artificial intelligence, digital communications, and environmental analytics. Second, researchers to examine the educational applications. If knowledge is the same by paradigms, then education should focus not only memorization, but also helping learners think critically about assumptions behind their thinking. And third, for well-being and social philosophy. So strategies can apply to the examining the emergence of systems, community, moral values, and religious knowledge in an involved. Lastly, future philosophy this philosophical studies can center on more aspects of analysis. Like at the end, this generation, this quotation. The historian of science may be tempted to explain that when products speak, the world itself is the paradigm reminds us that growth often begins when we question existing assumptions and become open to new perspectives. The setting is helps us better comprehend and how knowledge evolves and how human beings transform their understanding of the world. If you mention information, thank you very much for the very important the thesis. No? As I mentioned the previous one, it's something very nice that you end up reading thesis that is kind of related in the sense that they're basically no editors, the sentences are constructed, etc. Basically, because of the integration of AI and features like the dealing with all the mistakes. So these are very good ways of refining your work. My only concern right now is even with regards to how you would make use of your resources. I noticed that they're actually the links, the anchor links that we provided are very good and reliable ones. Okay. However, in terms of resources, particularly in the kind of resources that we have, it looks here that we ended up using 3 editions of Costco's Oxford Scientific Revelations. No? There's the 1962 edition, the first one, the 1970 edition, and the 2012 edition. My question is, why do we need to make this of 3 editions of one particular book? Okay, I go here. Six editions of Kuhn, 6. Yes, I mean, when we use the differences of books and different editions, they have very us another view and another group, and then also this view of models the way of thinking how product is. So because they are not totally different, they are just the same text. Some minor changes, but essentially they're just the same text. That's exactly the reason why, for example, there's so many things here. Like go to page 27. Page 27, footnote number 53. It's normal science, a kind of analytic process achieving resounding success in its goal with this to steadily expand the scope of positions and scientific knowledge. And then, here before, direct quotation, another direct quotation. With that. Kuhn defined revolutions as non-cumulative episodes of development in which the old paradigm is replaced in full or in part by a new incompatible paradigm. They are actually coming from the same word, but of different editions. My question, did that second quotation also appear in the first edition? Yes, but precisely. But then why did you make use of it? Thomas was a second edition. Thomas full second edition, second system. They have the same idea, but no, it's not the same idea. These are direct quotations. The very same words. These are direct quotations. Yeah, precisely. My question is, why do you have to put in your footnote two separate editions when they are basically just the same? How direct quotations and that paraphrasing, direct quotations that also appear in the same text. Because what I am thinking is this, my feeling is that you are using so many sources coming from different editions, but you did not make an effort to compare the three editions that you ended up using. No? The 1962, the 1917, the 2012. In principle, when you're doing research, there is a reason also. There is a reason why newer editions are acknowledged. Like for example, the one that you use, 2012 edition, published by University Press, that is the 50th anniversary edition. And right? Yes, good. And that is the most recent edition so far. Yes, of course, by that time, it's still elevated. Okay, good. But at least that's the most recent edition. Now, my question is, if you have access to the most recent, why did you go back and refer to the first one? Because you remember the books that I said made, I think 3 books, then the book of the annotations. Yes, also I realized and highlighted to myself, I consider myself why I have now almost they give many cases. Precisely, because when these authors were commenting on the works of Thomas Kuhn, the most recent edition has not yet been published. My point is this: as a responsible researcher, when you're reading an article, probably an old article commenting the works of Thomas Kuhn, you need to counter check that with the most recent edition. So in this particular author quoted the 1970 edition, and that quotation is a direct quotation. You need to check and counter check with the most recent edition, so that when you come up with your thesis, well, you only made use of one edition, the most recent edition, and the only reason why you make use of the old edition is when there is something that appears in the old and in the new, but does not appear in the old. You get the idea? That meant, I mean, there are so many instances here in the world where the same page 45, 1962, and then the most recent one also. It's the same they also have to be the 26. No? All of this, you're jumping from one edition to another without any. And these are direct recommendations. Don't tell me that it didn't appear in the one edition. My point is this: consistency. Consistency. You have the most recent edition. Use the most recent edition. You can never just simply say, "Oh, my secondary source quoted the old edition." Of course, it will be an old edition because the newer edition has started to be published. So the point is, if they ended up in an old edition, don't put it here. We already have a new edition already. Now, if you want to run a direct application, then go and make use of the newest edition. It's yes. Because there are subscribed books are published in so many literaries. Some are basically but basically some things are added. Like for example, you were in induction and you were phase per class. No. But essentially the main text remains the same. Precisely, it remains the same. So make use of the new text. No, okay. Now let's go to the so your main claim in your thesis is that Kuhn's paradigm shift applies reality science to society. Okay. Now I have some disagreements here because there's a reason why for Thomas Kuhn introduced the notion of paradigm shift, and he introduced that as his own reflection, studying the history of science, studying the history of science, and recognize that scientific development is not linear. Now, meaning it's characterized by revolutions, radical change. No problem with that. Okay. That is the evidence of history in terms of science and development. Okay, very good. Now, what would you want to bring that kind of mindset to social, cultural, and personal development? So, first, I would like to read it by story first. Yeah. So because the concept of analytics, like Thomas Kuhn is provided with insight and meaningful concept of how human knowledge and perspective and how Thomas Kuhn's the changes by social cultural and personal transformation, because I believe that this idea will help us to understand transformation in many aspects of our daily life, not only in one particular like science or history, but because it brings us many perspectives of life. And I also remember the relation study courses when I was first year. You use the when you see there, you see the place that there was different mind when I studied here. So also he wants the people who acknowledge and identify the different perspective, the genius person. And therefore, the paradigm seems to allow us to think like about issues, and so societies move from old ways of understanding reality to the new ways. Okay, but probably with that, the goal is to achieve a new perspective about reality, blah blah blah. So, you can this again, history. You look at history and you would like to make sense. In fact, when you start with silence, it's not there are radical change, radical shift is very happening. And that's the very thing I think also paradigm shift. Because it's not just a change of mindset, it's really a change of paradigm. It's radical. Okay? And you're trying to argue, okay, you study history, Thomas Kuhn came out with paradigm shift in order to make sense of history. Okay, your point here is not about history, Your point here is to undergo change, come up with your perspective, and say, no, let's not go for the linear development, but go for paradigm shift also. You get it? Why, for example, seminary formation? Seminary formation. The goal of seminary formation is to change the candidate. Get it? The answer. And seminary formation argues that you go to this stage, you go to this stage, you go to this stage. It's a linear development, linear. Are you trying to say that radically change seminary formation? Is that what you're trying to say? Like, I don't know, there's something radical, let's join the religious sisters and the religious brothers staying in one dormitory. No, is that the case? Or you're trying to suggest that let's know it's developmental from pre-college, college, theology, and then ordination. No, let's go. Ordained immediately, and after ordaining, here begin the formation. What you're trying to say is fundamentally change. Because the obvious is that for Thomas Wolfe, he wanted to understand this way. It's going back to the past. What you're trying to say is let's go forward and apply the paradigm shift in going forward. So you think my question is it the usual linear developmental organic evolution in order to affect change sufficient in terms of social, cultural, and definitely personal transformation? Is it not enough that we need to undergo paradigm shift? And paradigm shift understood by Thomas Wolfe. Paradigm is used to answer this way go in the past. But here I try to apply paradigm is to Thomas Wolfe, for example, like apply to seminarians. This paradigm is very unique for seminarians when we apply it in the seminar. The formation process in seminary all working books need transformation into seminary understanding. And we have like understanding concepts, their motivations, their relationship with God and the church. During formation seminarians, they are invited to move beyond their previous perspectives and rather include also understanding the theology and any responsibilities in the community. And Kuhn's concept helps to reflect how intellectual and spiritual conviction can be different from personal things. For example, like after studying critical, you can enter the critical, after you use the Bible, use the very power of the patient is going on. It goes to page 16. There's personal beliefs, perspectives, and behavior. Okay? You said here, but the personal level, paradigm shifts usually take the form of profound reorientations in one's understanding of the world and action in it. That's right. These can take many forms. A believer turning to secular humanism. Scaling finding spiritual faith. Of course, embracing independence or an active observer becoming active participant. Okay, again, my point is this. So, what you're trying to say, you're open to the possibility that a seminarian entering the seminary becomes an unbeliever. That's exactly my point. If the point of paradigm shift is radical change, when a seminarian enters believing, what's the radical change there? It goes out of not believing already. Yeah, you get the point. There is a reason. There is a reason why almost good limits paradigm shift to scientific revolutions. Because we studied history. There are two ways of understanding it. So it's evaluative and normative. Okay, when you say normative, that has to be the principle. Okay? When you go for a normative, in the future, that's going to be the case. Evaluative, you're looking at the past. You get the point? So the reason why these things happen before people believe that the Earth is the center of the universe, now we realize it's actually from geocentrism, we go for heliocentrism. It's the sun, and that basically altered the mindset of people about the reality. Again, you're looking at the past. You're evaluating the changes that happen in the past. What you're trying to see is future. And you need to radically change things. You get the point? And that's exactly the reason why from being a believer, one becomes a secular humanist. Because what I'm trying to say now, are you trying to say that seminary formation, you enter in order to become a priest, and then when you go out, you become a nun, a religious system? Because that's radical. Oh, that's not right. When you end up, oh, that's we're available. No? That's radical. It entails paradigm shift. That's what I'm trying to say. Precisely. The paradigm the news were basically by the scenarios. When the formation is progress in the scenario by deep transformation in every way, where the scenario is more value and create a good relationship with God and the others. So paradigm steps and to way to give them the new perspective, how we do person, how we people, and how us paradigms, tools, habits to reflect on our intellectual and spiritual formation and leaders. No problem with that. But the radicality of Kuhn's paradigm shift, radicality, is the opposite. From one, you go to the other. No? So you have a good seminarian. What's the opposite of a good seminarian? I think the bad seminarian. No? It's the goal of seminary formation to make it the first bad seminarian or a better seminarian. Good. Do you need paradigm shift there? Or you just have to follow the useful organic developmental gradual? For me, it is the paradigm there because if we following all the schedule or following all this process, we will not change anything. Because in the balance, because now I have this feeling that it is understand the paradigm shift of A1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Going up, developmental going up. No. Good and third best. You get it, yeah? That's not paradigm shift. I mean, the way balance is here, and I will emphasize that the balance leads to the medium, not useful thing. The goal is new perspective. Do you need paradigm shift? Yes. Why? Because in the balance is the team was somehow like they use their own way of thinking, own way of viewing. So they are, for example, like this. I thought that being a priest is just all about, you know, being a, following Jesus. Then I realized that when you live a priest, you don't just follow Jesus. You have to be another Jesus. There's no need for that. You just end up with a better, a broader, but there is no radical change here. You get the point? Yes. Yeah, as you say, like seminarians, like they want to be better, they think as other, yeah, better than before. Yes, definitely. Yes, that's exactly my point, because you see, people love the notion of paradigm shift, whether it's good, but if you understand paradigm shift, it's a shift. It's like you go to the other direction. Yeah, I was talking in past. Precisely. Now, Father, this might be it's good, no problem with that. No. But my point is this. It's one thing to be the past. It's another thing to come up with something in order to see the future, as I've seen. Now, my point is this. Father, are you trying to say, telling me that there are no paradigm shift in social, personal transformation? There is, there is, there is. But when you look at your past, for example, seminary formation, was there a paradigm shift in seminary formation? Yes. For example, the Council of Trent standardized that for one to become a priest, you need to undergo communal, directed, approved formation. Why? Because previously, if you want to become a priest, you go to a priest, father, help me become a priest. Okay, I will teach you nothing, you will teach you that, etc. It's individual, there's no communal formation. That's why the Council of Trent introduced a radical change in terms of formation. You get the point? Because before, you can easily become a priest. You just go to another priest, and then if that priest recommends, oh, this person is ready for the priest, so he gets purely. No, now there are very specific factors. It did not exist before. Did not exist before. It's radical change. Same thing also with religious life. Before, women religious are just inside the convent. Because it's the role of men to evangelize. Women stay in the convent. Okay, pray. That is your evangelization. Was there a paradigm shift? Yes. Yes. Saint Angela Medici is very, very radical because she was the one, Angela Medici, who initiated that no, women should not just be inside the convent praying behind bars. No. You also have mission outside. You teach children, especially women, girls. Keep education. You get the idea. Again and again, you look at the past, and there are radical shift, paradigm shift. You look at the past again. Get point? Now, are you trying to tell me that who in what we are now, we need to do a radical shift also, paradigm shift? If that is the things, if we need to radical, in order to make a question of things, better begin with There will be, and there will be paradigm shifts later on, later on. But that will only be justified when you look at it. It's another thing to say, we need to have a paradigm shift. Because what we're doing is not you're evaluating the past. You're making a norm for the future. You get that distinction? No? Probably later on there will be some changes. Probably. Like for example, let's say nowadays in Paris, they radically, the archdiocese of Paris, they radically changed seminary formation. Why? Because nowadays, because of Council of Trent, it's communal, it's like monastic. They apply monastic formation to diocese priests, even some religious congregation. Nowadays, in Paris, Northwest of Paris, they are doing experiment. What are they doing? There is no communal formation for diocese and Quezon. What happens is that seminarians are staying and undergoing their formation where? In the parish. Meaning, in a particular parish, 3-5 seminarians are staying there. Their formators are the parish priests. Their spiritual directors are the assistant parish priests. They get the idea. Why? Because these seminarians, anyway, when they become priests, will become parish priests. So while they are in formation, they are already there. So what is seminary formation in the archdiocese of Paris? It's in that parish, in that parish, in that parish. Precisely. So that is a radical change. It's a paradigm shift. It is, no? And that can be normally later on. But as of now, it's still an experiment. You get it? Yes. There are no problem with that. But I think you understand that. No? You use the paradigm shift to evaluate the past. And paradigm shift to become normal in the universe. Because the wisdom of Thomas Kuhn lies in understanding the past. Precisely. No? That's why it's a different way when you come up with a paradigm shift that is happening because of paradigm shift. And okay, let's now make paradigm shifts. Because if that is the case, then you don't understand the notion of it's radical. No? Meaning, if you're going to Cavite, no, let's change our mind. Let's go to Bulacan. You're going the opposite direction. Yeah. Again, the point. And you cannot simply make that normally. When you go east, no, they go west. When you go north, no, let's go south. Because if it's not that radical, it's not radical. Again, the point. You cannot make that at all. Actually, it's not again, the point. Okay.
Okay, thank you for the here actually you mentioned that there's a kind of a sanitary process. Partnership is not a big nice thing now. No, it's a process. There are some newer understanding and changes going on. But then it was really of assumptions in the past and practice, the discoveries when there are new information, small things, and then sometimes it's right. We just get a statement that says change now, but it's a long process. And we can make it here. Meaning that there is a free paradigm, formal science, so there are things that happen, and then eventually later they will be now my question here is I don't know you were this. What specific roles do they play in imposing this activity for the paradigm? for me. So what's the case of
online education, in innovation of classrooms, innovation of classroom, how the changes by dissolving, disturbing, or underlying the assumptions, and so the individuals the diverse ways of thinking, which became cited or maybe awakening the similar classrooms and practices. And he also mentioned Kuhn's method, religion plays a role to balance providing the flexibility, stability, and the paradigms how connect the thing between beliefs, values, and methods of paradigms.
religion? So religion is like if you
The thing that's like a sample. The reason because he complex control with the center by using, as I mentioned, using the provider flexibility, stability, and individualities to even in understanding and involve also the conflict between inherited beliefs, values, and meanings of paradigms in the leading
based on this, um, will you consider the paradigm shift in our school year later on as and lay people studying behavior and women studying behavior? We are kind of a form of paradigm shift or university activity or university
as a human beings, I think man studying human is good and I mean they feel the emotion happy or something they like. I mean, but when we use the blood gifts, for example, like what the information from Harry now here the signal is the school, the solid signal is but in the future because that is good. I mean, better way of dating, better way of dating, but immediately life was we need to see the result first, individuals first.
Just for example, before for the case of this bishop, bishop is formation of future peace. That's how this when it started. I read in the book the shifted formation of missionaries as lay, religious, and priest. Would that be a kind of direction?
Yes, okay. That's the kind of analogy. However, analogy is either motivated transformation, not immediately applied with based on the result of the understanding the reality.
Okay. Thank you for sending your basis for answering clarification. Related to the one we video for Mr. Joseph there. Sir Joseph, would you like to say something, Sir Joseph?
Thank you, Father. First and foremost, congratulations to our defense, and thank you for the panel for the comments, especially on the details and the nuances, how the paradigm shift. I think that's one of my major comments was very ambitious yung connecting a very specific use in philosophy of science to other fields of knowledge like culture and society. But hopefully, in our revision, we can strengthen the connection between Kuhn and, of course, the application of or the attempt to apply this to understanding the transformation of society, culture, and our personal experiences. Yun lang naman po, Father, yung ano. But congratulations again to the defense.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Oh, my.
I mean, the itself is partly made of anyway, it's debatable. That's how there is really a major distribution of that. They use the stuff. He's just jumping from one issue to another. Walang pere na nila. Just other. Or we go back ako hindi naman stated this is the same English number. Then I said na ako direct stating ko lang naman eh. So ang sa akin there's the difference. Pero yung mga yung may ito na I think has to be strongly not but condition it doesn't go. You need condition the 50 and 24. Oh, I think it was 24 so that everything. Tapos, people is obligations. So, iba na like on the text. Pero if it's just the same direction, gusto yun din. Consistent. In terms of quantitation, para natin, the reputation, the same sa combination with the this is shown that so that the reasons. But the main text is only use one condition. The latest condition is getting before the reputation is but I will not mention
Congratulations for presenting well thesis and so you will this is approved the minor vehicles. That was mentioned that our opinion regarding the use of different editions. So the system is only one edition, it is a direct edition. You only use the different edition that are here. But if it is direct application, then you use the latest edition. Okay. So whatever edition. That's yes.
Anything further?
The first is one. Can you put the
Let's focus in.
Seven, the picture. Okay, go.
What's happening? Okay. Okay. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, next week. Tomorrow, yeah, Marvin. No, no, wait. Relevance, de los años. Mateo, tierra.
Congrats. The audio is not really good, so I did not really hear all of the points, but I'm happy that you defended it well. Huh?
Actually, thank you for the focus. For me, I feel yes,
All right. Take your lunch. Bye-bye.
secure learn. Like why? People